Listeners, I'm here with Toby Witte, founder of Wittehaus. How are you doing today, Tony?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Robert.
And Toby, it's a pleasure to have you. You have such a unique background, Peruvian born, German raised, now designing luxury homes in American Southeast. How have those diverse cultures and experiences shaped your approach to architecture?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, for one, I guess, when you're yanked out of your cultural upbringing, it might allow you to kind of see the trappings, if you will, the systems of the culture you find yourself in, I guess. I could say that. So
Right.
just by, you know, when suddenly the fork is on the wrong side of the plate, you start seeing sort of the things for what they are a little easier, and allows me to maybe approach my work with a fresh eye and question things and feel freer to dive into the solution that seem right and appropriate, and not necessarily be held back by, I don't know, conventions, if you will.
Right.
They say just because we've done it this way for years doesn't mean it's the right way. And so it allows me maybe to get there a little quicker, I would say. And then, of course, there's such enormous, beautiful, great work architecturally around the world. And it comes in different flavors and in different ways. And so to have experienced some of it is certainly a wonderful plus that I have under my belt. And so I've been enjoying that. Growing up in Germany, it's architecture is around you, the built environment, it's just everything is just a little tighter, much more people on a square mile than here. And so there's a lot more construction built environment around you. And it's very intentional because you're running out of square inches quite quickly. And so it certainly has left a mark on me.
Yeah, I can only imagine having been in multiple or different environments gives you kind of a leg up, for lack of a better term, that most people haven't experienced, right? So you're able to see the nuances and the differences in architectural thinking and design. So that's great.
If I can add real quick, I think also, as far as my clients are concerned, they usually come with quite a diverse background. And so I think there's a certain comfort level right from the get-go between us, because I, quite open and interested and curious about their lives and their upbringing and their background. And yeah, it creates an immediate kind of sense of trust.
Right. Yeah. So you founded Wittehaus in 2017, I believe. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
After your extensive experience with other design build firms, what was the driving force behind you to start your own practice?
I needed a fresh start, I believe. I had gotten too comfortable in the places I found myself in, and I thought I had veered off a little bit from where I really saw myself to be. My expertise is really in the creative part of any of the projects I work on, and then also the technical expertise I bring to the table, and merging the two. And also guiding my clients through the entire process, taking them by the hand and telling them it's okay, it's fun, it's a great adventure. Let me just show you the way. Those pieces, I think, got a little lost, and I needed just a fresh start. I also wanted to concentrate a little bit on my spec house construction that is part of my process. I mean, mostly I just design single-family, modern, energy-efficient luxury homes for private parties. But I, over the years, got to build a dozen or so myself, and part of my desire was also to dive a little more into the spec house and provide houses ready to go. 2017 was a couple of years before the pandemic. I sold my last spec house. I felt like I literally took the check to the bank the day before the world shut down. I was a crazy guy walking through the neighborhood muttering to myself because the world was falling apart around me, and I was trying to figure out, okay, so I think I need to put a pause to the spec houses simply because of the economics of it. Prices were going through the roof on the construction side. At that point, I fully then focused on the custom design work, and it has been good ever since.
Yeah, I mean, what's like looking back on it, right? COVID kind of created, I think it kind of spawned a different part of the industry because now people are forced to be home, right? They're part of their environment needed to be transformed into like a workspace, right? People were still working, they were just had to adapt to this remote lifestyle. And I think a lot of people invested in renovating and creating that work life balance within their own home. So, it'd be curious to see, and interest rates were still zero for the most part. It's curious to see how your spec home endeavor would have fared throughout COVID.
I would say, in general terms, and I think I did write about it in my book, Supersizing Bliss, how all of a sudden everybody was cooped, like you say, everybody was cooped up at home and
Right.
nowhere to go. And they were forced to live with each other, your family, kids, your spouse, what have you. The reality of the quality of our homes really, really came to bear. And our homes are just not good. They're not designed well. They're not built well. They're not designed or built for anybody to really live in them. They're just, I call them carcasses of industrial thrift.
Right.
We build about 1.5 million homes every year in the United States, and only 2% of them involve the work of an architect. The majority are sort of pumped out by mass builders, if you will. I have to look back, but there's a dozen plus companies, home building companies listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Their interest is to raise the value of their shareholders. The quality of the homes for the actual homeowners is not so much their concern, and that's their prerogative. They're there to make money, and they need to be good at it. But the result is that we're living in these cardboard boxes that are just awful. Most of us have never sort of had the opportunity to experience truly beautiful spaces. And so, yeah, in the pandemic, we were just confronted with that full force. We were just living in our cardboard boxes, and they just didn't work. I mean, divorce rates went up during the pandemic. And
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to put everything last little bit on the power of architecture, but I mean, I'm certain that the quality of our homes had their part with it.
Oh,
And
definitely.
so,
I mean,
yeah,
even your wife, your family, you love them to death, but everyone still needs space, right? Yeah.
exactly right. You need your moments of where you can hide, where you can come together, where you can work, be on a Zoom call, have friends over, and each of these moments are so drastically different. And just because if you when you said that, I mean, so just because you want to be away for a minute and close the door and have your peace, privacy, and think for a second, even at that point, you might still want to have a sense that your family's still around. You just don't want to be bothered. So there's a very specific kind of qualities that your home should provide sort of a setting for. And, when we just put sort of one room next to the next one, and each one is just a cell, a box, and they're small, and then you add another box and then another box for another function, that just doesn't provide any of those qualities and spaces that are practical and useful for life to happen.
Yeah, yeah. My wife and I are kind of living that now. We're between, I don't know, let's just say life phases right now for various reasons. And we're renting this townhouse, coming from this big home to a townhouse, and I have my little space where I'm working, and she has hers, and it's it's a dance to make it work. To say so, your book. I have not read it yet, but I'm going to, I promise. Supersizing Bliss, where you say we've portrayed our homes and the happiness we seek. When did you write this book? Did you have this spark to create it because of COVID, or was this before?
It was certainly after COVID started, but I think the impetus was I've had just one too many preliminary conversations with my clients that were focused on all of the wrong issues. And it's, not to their fault, because there's just not enough good information out there, or we're simply inundated with all the wrong information. And they thought that, oh my God, if you could just, and when you have these preliminary talks, you don't have that much time. You're sitting together for an hour or so. So I thought that, oh my God, I want to start on a different foot. I want to talk about the right things. If I just had a book to give them before we have this conversation. And so I figured if it's not out there, then maybe I need to write it. And so my couple of the pieces that I'm trying to break for my clients is, so the real estate market essentially looks at two numbers. It's square feet and zip code for a variety of reasons. But in my opinion, they have no value to the homeowner whatsoever. I think that our homes' primary purpose is to provide a stage for us to be happy, to be at peace, to be sort of affirmed, to be stress-free. And the size of the number of
Yeah,
sorry?
you're known for designing for happiness. I mean, that's kind of like your
Yes,
motto, I believe, right?
exactly right.
Yeah.
So square feet have no relationship to that. And the need to increase square feet has nothing to do with those qualities that really do enrich our lives and make our lives better. And so I wanted to allow my clients to not concentrate on that, but rather see the true value of their home and then dive into that. And so I break apart those conventional types of thinking and market metrics. I explain where they come from, why they're there, and why they're completely useless for us. And then I go into the pieces that I think are much more important, and how to easily get to the point where we can actually feel empowered, happy, affirmed in our homes. And so that's sort
Yeah.
of the through line of the book.
Yeah, that's excellent. You're also big on sustainability and energy efficiency, right? How do you balance that luxury design with the technical requirements that's required to have as close to net zero effect on a home as possible? There has to be that fight that you're constantly, or you have, but you've maybe since then have figured it out, right? Each project is different, so each product and each vision requires a different design to meet those standards. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So it actually turns out that they're not opposing forces, but rather they go hand in hand. To design and build an energy efficient home means to design and build a better home. And when the home is better, the quality of it goes up, the air quality goes up, your comfort level goes up, they last longer, your investment is protected longer, better, stronger. And so your wealth building through your real estate investment that the home partially is
Mm-hmm.
supported by simply building it better. The houses we build are meant to last 10 years. That's sort of the legal window in which architects and builders can be held accountable. And I mean, it's almost funny if it wasn't, but if you buy a new house on the ninth year, 12 months, 31st day, that's when everything starts to be falling apart. And that's
Is
simply
it
because
funny
our
like appliances? Yeah, it's funny when appliances, when one goes, they all seem to follow in such a short
yes,
period of time, right? Because it's
exactly right. And it's no good. And it's simply because we build crappy homes. They're just not put together well. And so when you actually pay attention for a second, and it doesn't take much. And you just like what you said, yeah, each situation is different. And it starts with the setting of the home, the property. Where's due south? It's that simple. You have to orient your home to the south. That's where the sun, you can actually control the sunlight in a positive way. It's also the best light. It's the warmest, happiest light comes from the south, but you can control that by simple using overhangs, like a visor of your baseball cap. You keep out the summer sun, shade your windows so your house doesn't get heated, and then in the lower winter sun can sneak in underneath that visor, if you will. It's very
yeah,
simple. And that is like number one step, solar gain control. And then the second one is simply to create a insulation shell around your entire space that is tight. And then also create an airtight envelope around the entire house. It's like a Yeti cooler you put yourself in. When you have that focus on those things, your house becomes instantly much more energy efficient. You have to use less energy, and the air quality is better. And the quality of the construction is better just by having your focus on that. Suddenly everything has to be built better to achieve that, and you'll have a better house for it, one that lasts longer. It's very easy, straightforward, and it doesn't cost that much more to put a little bit of attention into it.
Yeah, I think, to go back to what we were talking about earlier about, most of the homes in this country are mass produced, right? It's such a dollar driven, it's a big business, right? If, it's dollars and cents for a developer, in the area where we are, Connecticut, you see cities like Stamford, Connecticut, and New Rochelle a few years before, and they're designing and building these huge residential living apartments. They call them luxury living. It's really not luxury living because, your 3-bedroom apartment is 1,200 square feet. It's a math problem for the developer. If they can fit in 3 extra apartments that are 1,200 square feet as opposed to making a 3,000-foot apartment, right? That makes sense. If they can go from, I'm going to use an example, an Anderson 400 series window to an Anderson 200 series window, right? It just makes their math that much more appealing to them. And we are just, it's dollar driven. It's a big business. And your point, the homes they're not economical and they're not lasting.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's exactly the problem. So I tell the story of the school bus. You can be a proud owner of a school bus for $140,000. For the same price, you can buy yourself a Maserati, exact same price. So the sticker price is the same. Your budget is exactly the same. But the way the real estate market is set up, financing, insurance, everything else, and then sales of it is going for the school bus. The square foot price of the school bus is so much better. I made the calculation and whatever. It was like $400 a square foot for the school bus, while the Maserati is, I don't know, 1,400 a square foot for the Maserati. The sticker price is exactly the same. It's the same budget, the same money you're going to spend. But, if your intention is to take your loved one down, the beautiful mountain roads and, rev that engine, decline in those comfortable seats, have the wind go through your hair, having a beautiful drive through the mountains or whatever. If that's your plan, you should buy the Maserati, not the school bus. But the entire real estate market is set up to go for the school bus, and it makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
And so my whole premise is, I don't want you to spend more money. You have your budget, whatever you can afford. My suggestion is, let's build less square feet, but make them that much more of better quality, so that the smaller square feet is actually that much more enjoyable. And the problem is, what we talked about earlier a little bit, is that we think the solution to our unhappiness in our homes is to add more square feet, because we are putting these small little boxes together that are really tight and uncomfortable. And so I need more. And so we add another box, and suddenly we're sitting on thousands of square feet that nobody really uses. I got to design and build a home for my family and we have 3 daughters. 2 of them are in college now, but they lived here as teenagers. And it was 1,700 square feet. But it is so spacious. It feels so open, inviting. Each of us have the places that we can go and have our own time by ourselves, but then there's spaces we can come together. But at any corner of the home, there are moments of spaciousness and openness and ease, and it's created with using less square feet instead of more square feet. And so what we got to do is then spend our hard-earned money on items, pieces, design moves that actually do make a difference and improve our quality of living, and also improve the quality of the home.
Right. Yeah. So you're with your clients right from the beginning, even to the point where it's purchasing the land. What's the most crucial advice you can give someone or one of your clients at the very beginning of the journey?
First thing, forget all the real estate metrics. Ask yourself a question of what you're really in for, and explore that. What is it really you're asking for? Understand that the creation of your home is art, and it's also an adventure that is enjoyable. And then love the process. The hard truths that are offered right at the beginning are always going to be more expensive than you think, and it's going to take longer than you think.
That's so true. That's so true.
And so, part of what I do from the beginning is set the record straight and allow. What we do at the very beginning is to create a plan to walk through all of these pieces, all of their wishes and dreams and the reality of things, and create a financial picture, a time picture, an idea of what of your wishes we address, how, and which ones I'm going to convince you to let go of. You don't need a bowling alley or a helicopter landing pad, but because we dropped that, you get to do other things that you actually wanted. What are your priorities? So we go through all of that right at the beginning so that we have a real goalpost, so that throughout the design process we don't go astray, and then also that, by the time everything is done and paid for, it actually comes in at the cost that you are hoping to spend. And then you said, yes, I do help my clients find a property. There, my advice is, don't look into builder subdivision with HOAs. Their purpose is they're set up so that every single house looks just like the next one. There's no freedom of expression in any of these. All of them are crap. Stay away from it as much as you can. We have been able.
HOAs have one direction, and it's up, right? Those costs never go down.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And so, we have built or designed and built a couple houses in the subdivision with HOAs, but those were certainly a little more open and allowed more freedom. And so we were able to kind of find our way. But in most cases, I would say stay away. And there's plenty of beautiful properties around, beautiful settings that just allow you to do whatever you want to do. So go for it.
Yeah. So you've garnered some significant recognition for your work, from Forbes to Architectural Master Prize. What do these accolades mean to you? And do they influence your future projects, or are your goals for yourself and your rules for yourself stay the same no matter what the landscape is?
Yeah, I certainly grow and adjust and change over the years. I'm always going out there with curiosity, childlike curiosity. So I am destined to change and learn and grow along the way. But I think those accolades are quite welcome, and I take them thankfully. It's wonderful to be recognized by your peer. I do appreciate them, but they are more a byproduct of my work. They're certainly good to build a level of trust from my clients and bring some notoriety, some positive street cred. All of that is positive. But if they influence me, it's because through them I am also then introduced to the work of other architects, builders, people in the built environment, other projects. And so I always, there's always interesting work out there that I then get to rub my shoulders on and learn from and see and be inspired. So it certainly does have some positive effects.
Yeah. Looking ahead, what trends in the residential architecture do you see? Does anything excite you?
I think that the energy efficiency piece we are so past the moment of diving into it full-heartedly that I am certain that we're going to experience sort of a threshold moment. I truly believe that, I don't know, in 10, 15 years, if your home is not energy efficient, then you'll have a very hard time selling it. I think the same is true. It might be more palpable to think of it with electric cars. I think it's the same thing there. I really do think that, if you enjoy driving gasoline car, buy your last one right now and enjoy it for maybe 5-6 years, because for the same reason, I think the car industry will be at a point where you will be hard pressed selling used gasoline cars in, 10 years or so. And I think the houses will be in the same place.
Yeah. I think this country is either at an inflection point or going to be at an inflection point. And I'll use the same example with electric cars. We just don't have the infrastructure to support, everyone having them, right? And depending on where you are in the country, there's obviously better areas of the country than others. I agree with you. The more energy efficient you can be, the better off you're going to be. And, as we've both been akin to and witness of, prices generally, the cost of living generally goes up, right? It's this trajectory, and who knows what's going to happen. And that efficiency and the dollars it costs you every month to maintain is going to become very important. I do agree with you with that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
When you say
it'll
that, I have to think about like if you take solar panels, for instance, they have become so much more efficient and affordable just because of the technological improvements over the last years that we are now at a point where you essentially can have your solar panels for free. It costs the increase, let's say, in monthly payments to pay for that extra bit of technology on your roof is the same amount that your energy bill will decrease by. And it's very straightforward. Let's say if you roll it into a mortgage, your mortgage payments go up by $200, your energy bill goes down by $200. And so you essentially can have solar panels for free. And so we are now at that cusp that if you, in a year, 2, 3 years, my clients are already experiencing that they actually get paid by the energy company for the energy that power plant on the roof produces every day. And so we're now at that place where we can actually not only get solar panels for free, but install them just so that we can make money.
And from an
So,
architectural standpoint as well, I mean, I know myself, I don't want these big panels bolted to my roof, but I think Tesla, I could have the manufacturer wrong. They have these solar panels that look like roof shingles, right? So from an
yeah,
architectural standpoint, it's not so obtrusive, right? And I think once that becomes a little more prevalent, you're going to have less resistance to adopt that technology.
that could be very well true. The case, of course, for my client is already solved, if you will, because we get to design the house to their needs. And so if there are going to be solar panels on the roof, we can orient roof surfaces perfectly to the best direction and incorporate it into the design in a way that you never see them if it's a concern to you, right? And so it's, easy to solve. But yeah, you're right. I mean, from my perspective, that's sort of one of those things that are lingering around that it's because it's a new technology. I don't know if everybody's looking in there, is walking around looking in their phones these days. When you go into a cafe, a restaurant, nobody's talking to each other.
Yeah,
So we gotten used to these funny things in our hands
yeah. I
over
think
the
it's a
years. And the same will
yeah.
be for the solar panels, I'm sure.
I think it's easier to adopt, for lack of a better term, or embrace that new technology when you're building new, right? Because you have the ability in the design to not make them so obtrusive, right?
Yes.
It's all the existing homes that we currently have in the world today that you don't have that flexibility, right? And
Yes.
obviously, depending on how the home is situated on the property, can lead to as well. But yeah, it's definitely a conversation that should be continued. And I agree with you. I think the landscape on now, I'm not sure how it's going to affect the business side of it, right? Because I just think that takes front and center right now. But we're going to have to learn to adopt and be more efficient in what we do, especially in home building, for sure. Where do you see AI in this? Where do you see it? Is it something that you currently use now? And where do you see it in the industry in the next few years, 3 to 5 years? Now, I know there's licensing issues with it, right? In terms of they don't want to see the licensing boards, right? They don't want to see people relying on AI. It has to be a balance between you, the licensed architect, and the tool AI. AI helps you gather the information and helps you to be more efficient, faster, and better at what you do. What they don't want to see, and I don't think there's guidelines on it now, probably from a licensing standpoint, there is. I think people are scared of AI and what impact it has on the engineering, right? You don't want an engineer or an architect to design something and rely on AI to do those calculations for you, right? There always has to be that step where you, as a licensed professional, has to sign off on it. So I'm curious, from your perspective, where do you see AI?
Yeah, what you just described, I think, is true. So I see that right now it's such fast, developing and changing so quickly. But the sense I have right now is that what you just said, that AI has a capability to sort of take care of the mundane tasks. If the computer can do it, let the computer do it.
Right.
And I think that plugs into a problem the architectural profession has found itself in. And I think most architects don't necessarily see it, even though they're drowning. And that is that think I believe that the architectural profession has sort of deteriorated. Architects are essentially underpaid draftspeople. Provide me a drawing as quick as you can, as cheap as you can. I don't care what it shows, what it does. I need the drawing. I need a permit. I need to get my construction going. And so there's a race to the bottom. And I think that the architectural profession has been focusing on all the wrong things. And there has to be a switch to elevating the true value that architects can bring to their clients. I know, for example, as an example outside of my lane, I know an architect who is completely focused and has the expertise in gas stations. And so she knows everything there's possibly to know about EPA rules, about how customers walk into and how this gas station and how you sell, how you orient things, how stalls or whatever, gas things have to be, placed and everything. And so she can actually go to her client and say, what's your purpose of wanting to build a gas station? You want to make money. Well, let me tell you what you should do and shouldn't do, how we get that the quickest. What is the value that you are after? And I can dive into that and fulfill that. In my case, it is more, of the things we talked about earlier. And so when I can concentrate on those value pieces and grow my expertise in those and bring those to my clients, I'm the most valuable to them. And that means if now I can, and so what that means to me, I need to not do the things that do not directly affect that. If I can put my finger on the scale, put the secret sauce into it and make a difference to that value proposition, I shouldn't be doing it. And so I should rather subcontract it out. And that's what AI really is. It can be said essentially it's a subcontracted labor force, if you will, for the things that are so common that I shouldn't waste my time on. And they can do it faster and better and quicker. And of course, so right now for me, that is very small pieces yet. There's a lot of course, text writing. I write certain things. I have to submit it somewhere. I shouldn't waste my time on it. Here are my points. AI, please create real text out of it I can send out. Here are my points. Me crafting that text, what a waste of time. The same is with rendering powers. I found, so we have been dabbling with using AI for renderings, and it does a really nice job, but it's not to a point, right? And so for me to spend the time to creating this rendering traditionally would take days, weeks to create. Now I can put a couple of words into the computer and in seconds I have something. But there's a limit to it. None of that has to do anything with sort of the true value I bring to my clients. And so when you talk about licensure, it's just, a piece where, yes, you have to have somebody there that does the critical thinking, thinks it through, and makes sure everything is being met and understood and considered. That part, if maybe then AI can allow the architectural profession to refocus their efforts to those parts and give away the things they shouldn't spend time on.
I believe COVID spawned the biggest technological boom this world's ever going to see, and that's AI. Bigger than the dot-coms were in the 90s by far. But it's come on us. I mean, we are in the ground floor, even though they said AI was founded back in 1946, or a far cry from where we were in 1946. It's come on us so fast, and we have the chat GPTs of the world. I think most people's understanding of it is in its infancy, right? Most people look at AI and they're the large language models, right? And you made a point where it comes to renderings. There's so many small language models that you're able to train and implement to give you a much more focused and specific outcome, a tool that you can use for, say, your renderings or what have you. And that's where, I use this example all the time. You take our parents, as a result of the dot-coms, as our parents got older, some faster than others, they were essentially rendered useless. And that's a harsh term. I don't mean it like they're useless. They were rendered useless because of the technology, right? Now they had to grapple with cell phones and all this online banking and this and that. And they're either just giving up or their kids are helping them. That process of becoming irrelevant is now, it's going to be sped up so much faster with the advent of AI, right? And businesses and families and individuals alike, you might not have to like it you might be scared of it, but you have to be willing to try to understand and, experiment with it. And just like anything else in life, as sad as it is, the companies, the businesses of the world, the people who embrace it and use it and put it in its right place are the ones that are going to succeed, because they're going to be able to do things faster, more efficient, and better. And time is money. So if you're doing it faster, it's cheaper, your margins go up. I think the biggest impact is going to be is what you needed one or two people to do, gathering the codes for a certain town, right? AI can do that, whereas you needed to hire someone or need to have someone in your stable to be able to do that. That person costs money, they take vacations, they get sick, they require health care, and there's a whole gamut of stuff where AI is put in its right place. They work
Yes.
24/7. They don't need health care. They don't take vacations. Say, we each took 2 minutes and said, where do we think AI is going to be in 3 years? The chances are both of us are going to be wrong, right? Or at least part of what we think is going to be wrong. That's the scary part. It's exciting, and I think it's gonna, just bring a new level of expertise. And it's obviously going to spawn a multi-trillion-dollar business within the world.
I think you kind of triggered through two examples. I was thinking, listening to what you just said. One is, you mentioned codes. You can now literally use AI to ask the building code book, ask the question, how high can I do this? How low? What do I have to do? Tells you in seconds. All right, paragraph XYZ, such and such, 1 foot over that. And so I can read that in seconds and go, oh, okay, that's good to know. And I can then go into and see, just double check, it's telling me where to look here. And I can read it myself just to see whether, so I don't have to trust the AI, but it certainly gets me there quicker.
Yeah, 100%.
It's already there. And then another example is, from a design standpoint, I don't condone this, but as an example, classically office buildings, for instance, or hospital or an apartment building, at the very beginning, when you do a feasibility study, you have to figure out your parking. You're required to have X amount of parking spots for the inhabitants and users of the building. And then the parking lot itself comes with a lot of rules, dimensions, and things that have to be that you have to apply. There is now already a commercially available product, a computer program, where you simply put in, all right, whatever, here's my property, here's what I want to do, and it spits out several versions of the best kind of arrangement. All right, if you do an H-shaped building over here with X amount of storage and square feet and this and that, it means you have to have that many parking spots, and this is how they're arranged. This is the most optimized version that this program can spit out. So for a human being, I believe we wouldn't get to that optimized of a layout, and even if we could, we would get there so much slower. And all of that is exactly this kind of dumb work, if you will, that an AI program can take over, can take care of you, so that you have the answer and you can say, okay, it's going to be a 6-story building, X amount of units of this size. Let's go and start the design process. We get, over this dirty work quickly. Those are already available. There's AI already there doing that work.
Right. Yeah. So, and the other thing too there is, let's use the parking lot as an example. You plug in those guidelines with the size of your property, the number of people in your dwelling. It spits out what the requirement for parking is. That requirement in North Carolina is most likely going to be different than what the requirement's going to be here in New York City or Fairfield County, right? It changes from geographic area to geographic area. Every municipality, although, we're all governed under the National Building Code, but each town and municipality has codes that are specific to their town. So that's where AI is really helpful, right? Because you can geo-target and be very specific, and it has a huge impact in terms of time and the amount of personnel you would need, the amount of money you would spend to try to garner that same information.
That's exactly right. I mean, one great example would be, for instance, so I was invited to talk at a tiny home convention, and I learned there. Yeah, and there's a county in North Carolina, Cabarrus County, where they just passed a new zoning piece that allows for a community of tiny homes to happen. In the past, I had people come to me and say, Toby, hey, I watch my HDTV. This is some cool stuff. I want to create a little enclave of tiny homes as a vacation spot. And I had to tell them, well, forget it. There's no place around here, no county that has a zoning setup that allows you to do that. It's simply not out there. The only thing that's out there is trailer parks, and trailer parks demand that you have tires on your housing units, if you will. What you're
Yeah.
planning to do, you're simply not allowed. AI could allow me to simply ask, hey, I want to do this. Let me ask AI, what counties out there have zoning laws that allow me to do it?
Yeah. It's the prompting too, right? It's having the knowledge and the ability to be able to say, okay, this is my question. All right, it spits out an answer. Now that answer might not necessarily be 100% accurate, and you prompt it again, and right, that's where the migration from large language models to small language models, really has an impact. But yeah, we're saying the same thing. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, Toby, this has been a fantastic conversation. I thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners that maybe we haven't talked about, maybe a little more about Wittehaus?
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that you have me on. I enjoyed our conversation. I think we talked about a lot of good stuff. But yeah, I mean, if your listeners have more questions, they can certainly reach out. If you punch in my name, there's Google and several AI platforms I noticed. They find plenty of information and ways to contact me. And do pick up a copy of my book, Supersizing Bliss.
I'm definitely going to do that. Yeah.